Hey, welcome to another episode of Your Faith and Health Community. I'm your host, Pastor Jackie Jackson, and as always, on behalf of myself and our producer, Anita Alexander, we want to thank you very much for taking out time from your day to spend with us. This show is a continuation of last week's show, where we had with us Lavina Bryant, who is the chapter coordinator for CSSJ, which is the Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, as well as we have with us Sister Rakia Abdul Matokalain, who is the advocate coordinator for CSSJ. So I'm not even going to ask you about health insurance because I'm sure between last week and this week you've gotten your health insurance, and I'm sure you all should, all right? I want to thank you ladies for hanging around with us a little bit longer and just having the conversation around the gun violence that's in our community, that's wrecking our community, that's wrecking our schools. You know, it's sad that our children are doing active shooter drills in school. I mean, it's good that they're doing it because, unfortunately, it's a possibility, but it's sad that there's a necessity for it. Mm-hmm. But there are other issues as well that is really hurting all communities, and that other issue would be sexual abuse. And it's happening a whole lot more than people are aware of, or, let me say, than what people want to accept and acknowledge that's going on. Right. And so CCSJ, yes, while it is an advocacy group for survivors of gun violence and is doing a lot of amazing work at the Capitol and in the communities, you also deal with sexual abuse. Oh, yeah. So let's jump right in that, because I'm sure there's somebody out there that could relate, that may be sitting there going, God, finally somebody's talking about it, or just some information for someone that I know. So tell me, how is CSSJ involved with survivors of sexual abuse?
Okay, so let me first start off and let everybody know that I'm a survivor as well. I have been through sexual abuse myself, and for me, it was a sticky situation, and like most people, you know, feel that they don't talk about it because one thing is said all the time is, oh, you know, it happens all the time. Yeah, but people do not want to live with going through sexual abuse, no matter how you look at it. And for me, I've been through sexual abuse, but at this point in my life, I've came a long ways from where I've been. So talking about it, trying to get help was very hard for me to do. And I've kept a lot of things to myself. I ended up doing a lot of things and making decisions that was suitable for the time that I needed to make those decisions. So the outcome was never beautiful, but I had to do those type of things. And, you know, one day I hit a serious bottom for myself, and I, you know, turned to a higher power and decided that I just need to pray my way through things, and it brought me through a lot. Then I was able to share with other people, and then it was a big life-changing thing because I didn't care what people thought. I was not caring what people had to say. I don't care if it happened to everybody you knew. It was just, what do I do now to make sure that someone else is not going through this anymore? So one of the biggest things, I happened to be sitting in a class with Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, and two gentlemen came in and they talked about things that had happened, and I'm like, oh man, like, wow, if I, you know, knew about the trauma center, because the trauma center is something that has the resources to help people, you know, maybe that would have helped. But sometimes it's not even about that. It's about the simple fact that there's something that went wrong in someone else's life, so they turned their lives into doing things that they weren't supposed to do and causing harm and pain to other people. So that is the biggest thing with sexual abuse. And a lot of people, it really goes unreported because people don't want to break up their homes. They're not really trying to tell anybody what's going on, or they just get tired and they don't want to be shamed, like it's their fault. Oh, you shouldn't have worn that, or you shouldn't have did this, or it's not about that. So we want I want for people to know that it's okay. And CSSJ is here for situations like that, as well as people who are going through losing someone to gun violence. We deal with a lot. Even in the situation that you had somebody in your family who knew what was going on to you or with you and did not report it. We're here for that too, because it's traumatic, it's trauma.
I have experienced, once becoming a part of CSSJ, all of the things that Lavina has just touched upon, hearing other people tell me about how they were assaulted, both men and women, at a young age. I now understood why my mother was so protective of us and how we have certain rules and regulations in our faith that guard against such behavior. So when I had the opportunity to just listen to the people, it made a difference in them being able to tell me and know that I would keep their story and what they said to myself between them, and that I showed them forgiveness. I forgave them, even though I didn't do anything. I said to them, you, for me, are a beautiful person, and I forgive you for what has happened to you. And I want you now to forgive yourself. Because others have told you it's your fault, when in actuality, it really wasn't your fault. You were a child. That helped them. I had one young lady over the phone just yesterday, and she had never thought, after 23 years she had gone through this abuse she had, she never thought to forgive herself. Because we do blame ourselves. Naturally, as human beings, we blame ourselves first. And people have to stop, not that they won't ever do it, but they have to learn to forgive themselves. And that's what Lavina did. First of all, she forgave herself, and realizing that, one, it really wasn't her fault. So CSSJ has this chapter where we deal with domestic abuse and sexual abuse by helping people come to terms. One of the things that we are doing is getting our people in a workshop. This workshop right here, which talks about human values. People forget all about the human value part of how we are supposed to treat each other. This thing is crooked, there it is. How we're supposed to treat each other. Because we have become complacent in our society now, where we think good is bad and bad is good. That coin has been flipped. Our children are being sorted upon. This disease is going after them, and they are our future. And if we don't get a handle on all of this, mankind has no future. People do not go after the strong ones. They go after the weak ones. Those are children.
Well, I'm not a weak person, so that is not necessarily...
When you were younger.
Well, hold on. It all depends on the person themselves. You know, we tend to say that they go up and prey on weak. When it comes to sexual abuse, it's a whole different ballgame. And it's not about being weak, it's about how you feel about the person that is doing things to you or what they are doing to you. We sometimes put people on a pedestal because we love them and we feel these certain things for them. And we don't want our family broken up, or we don't want to expose, or we don't want people looking at us as a certain way. And in all actuality, we need to throw that whole persona, that whole portfolio about what we feel about ourselves away and just start knowing our own worth and know that if you need help, get it. If you need to talk about it, talk about it. And one big thing is that we do have a problem. If we do report that something's happened, they will break up our families. But what can we do not to have that happen if it's not solely necessary? You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, it's sometimes it takes a traumatic situation that someone went through, and then they start doing things to someone smaller than them because they know the love.
That's what I meant by
because they
weak.
know how they feel about them, and they know that they love them, and they know where they stand with these people, and the trust that they have with them.
That's what I meant by weak.
And then
Younger.
right, and yeah, and then so what they do is they harm these people, and so with that, where did the counseling come in for them? See, that's where I'm at. And right now, because of my situation or things that's happening to me in the past, I want to be that person where you can pick up your phone and you can call me and we can talk about it and we can get this out on the air and we can figure out what is it that we can do for your family, whether it means for us to handle this situation while you all are still a unit, a family, or do we need to separate this family?
Which I think it moves us to a good, excuse me, which moves us to a good place to go with this. So let's say someone's watching,
Right.
and they're in this position, whether it's something that's happening now, whether it's because you mentioned men. There could be a man who was in a correctional institution that may have been preyed upon.
Of course.
And
yes.
so now he's dealing with that, or a woman who it happened as a full-grown woman or as a child. But in any of those scenarios, if someone is saying, I need help, and they hear or see your organization, what are the steps of getting help? What is a normal, or as normal as we can call this, call to CSSJ reaching out?
For me, we work very closely with the Trauma Recovery Center. That's first off. So
Now, which trauma recovery?
the Seven Hills Neighborhood House.
Okay.
We do believe in taking them there, and then that's where the healing and the help starts to kick in first. But we want to make sure that we're not triggering anyone as we take these steps with these people. Because just because, oh my gosh, this is what's happening to you, we want to be very sensitive. We want to sit down and we actually sit and ask, what is it that you want to see change? Because you can ask somebody, do you want me to get you help? And you start to get them help, and that's not the help they meant. We want to be able to say, okay, so where do you feel you're at right now?
Well, that's what I think. I mean, when I say I make the initial call, what does the initial assessment process look like? Because I'm assuming that you have counselors. I'm assuming that you may have some, I don't know if you have doctors involved, or what is the staff? So we get to the trauma center. Am I speaking to a psychologist that's a professional? Am I speaking to someone that took some people, they take a 2-month course and then they're ready to go. So if we can just do a quick kind of walkthrough so that somebody who's watching, a lot of times we don't move forward because of fear.
Exactly.
And fear of the unknown. But if I know that my initial process is I'm going to sit down with someone who may be someone who understands where I'm coming from because they've been where I've been, right? So that's what I'm saying. What is that initial assessment process to get you to the next spot?
Well, basically what we do is that once the person has shared the story, or they, because basically, let me just put this out there and be very clear about this. When it comes to CSSJ, we definitely deal with a lot of people who've been through a lot of things. But when it comes to personal things and them wanting to get help, the Trauma Center is where we sit and take them, and we will go with you by hand if needed. So at that point, they will talk to someone in intake, and intake will start to reach out to doctors, psychologists, anyone that is relevant to their situation or to what they're got going on that can bring in more help for them.
Right.
So that's exactly how we do it, because we want to make sure that policies are changed, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we're being very careful about what it is and how we're trying to help people as well. Because some people come to our group just to get that off their chest. Some people come and just want to hear that somebody else has gone through what they're going through.
Because everybody has an individual, you know, when we get into the one size fits all for anything, that's usually, to me, where we start screwing up. Because I assume that if this person, all they need is an ear, and they seem to be moving forward, the other person may need a whole arm.
Yes.
The ear is not going to take care of it.
Right.
So, I reach out to CSSJ. I go through the assessment with CSSJ before I go to the trauma center, or as soon as I reach out to you, am I being sent to the trauma center?
No, we talk to you first.
Yes, we'll definitely talk to you first.
One of the things that we have found is that it takes people a little bit of time to give the whole story. Sometimes it's just they start to talk and the tears begin to flow. And then they want to stop. And that stop can be a week or two. We're still here. The door never closes for them or closes on them. When they are absolutely ready, then we get to the trauma center to find out exactly. Some people just, their life was so discombobulated from the past, they just needed a fresh start. And the trauma center has some of the things that we can housing for them, okay? After now that they have dealt with what has been really on their chest, weighing them down, and now they can start their lives again, and they help them with that. We have all the other organizations that can do the same thing.
So it's not just I contact CSSJ, we talk, and then there's a soft handoff to another or to the trauma center, and then CSSJ is like, okay, see you, we're on to the next one.
No, because that's not what we're wanting people to think about crime survivors for safety and justice. When you think of crime survivors for safety and justice, we want you to think this is a place where you can come share your stories. But not only that, it's about building trust. It's about building a relationship with these people. And these people actually knowing that there is someone here that has either been through what you've been through, or we're actually here to help you along the way and find what you need, because we're about finding resources. Like, you know, we have a whole event getting ready to come up. And
what event is that?
And it's in July, and we're doing like this a resource fair, like a job fair, but instead of jobs, it's resources. Because these are survivors and these are things that they need. And we want to put that on the forefront so that the people who don't know that this is where you can go and get some help.
You got outreach programs.
We do have outreach programs, but as far as crime survivors for safety, if you go to the trauma center, that doesn't mean we're going to stop talking to you. If you pick up, if you call me in the middle of the night and say, hey, Lavina, I'm really battling with something and I need to talk to you, I'm going to get up and answer my phone and listen to you.
Same here. We have groups, different people who are willing to be on the line with us who are members of CSSJ.
So you have a hotline. Is it a hotline of a sort?
It's our personal, it's my personal number.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to hide behind I don't need no hotline. I don't need anything extra for you to know who I am. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen to you. If my mother calls me, you're going to call me too, just like mommy called me.
But I wouldn't go so far as to say, and I understand from your standpoint, that those who work a hotline are necessarily hiding behind the hotline. It's not that they're hiding, but you just take a more personal, hands-on approach to it.
I do.
And I'm assuming you do the same.
Yes,
so let me ask
CSSJ
you
is
this.
like that.
You mentioned resources. So what type of resources are we talking about that? Because, you know, some people may be listening and go, I know what the homeless needs. You know, I know they need socks, they need clothes, stuff of that nature. What type of resources, and are some of the resources one and the same, even for some of the individuals you'll deal with? Because I'm sure for some people, it has been so traumatic in their life that they may actually be on the streets.
Yes.
Because I personally believe that some of the men I mean, women, yes, but some of the men that are out on the street corners and out doing a lot of the damage are doing it because they went through something in their life and they're trying to figure out, and I'm a survivor of sexual assault myself from 5 to 12. So they're trying to figure out how to maintain, how do I get through this? And so they're lashing out. So what resources should a survivor be able to expect from
Like you said, the one size fits all don't work for everyone, and it doesn't work in this realm either. But people do know what they need and what they don't need. So when I say resources, whether it be you need food for the next week, you should have pantries available to you that you can go to and get food. If you need some type of counseling, there should be a list of people that are willing to take on your case, or just talk to you about what it is that you need to be talked to about.
Jobs.
That's another thing.
We're connected with Cincinnati Works so that we can direct the person over to them. There's outreach. We are connected to them so that we can send them to a person there to outreach. People who are getting are incarcerated and they're coming out and they need to know where to go.
Right, Urban League. There's a couple of organizations where you might be getting out of incarceration, man or woman. There's organizations out here that will help clothe you, get clothing so you can find you a job or help you write a resume and stuff like that. So these are the type of things that we're getting ready to have a big basically like a fair, a resource healing, we'll call it a healing resource fair, so that people can come who's been through things, whether it be them going through re-entry or them just needing everyday things from food or help with rent or help with gas and electric. Those people will be there and you can talk to them and see what they can do and what magic they can work for you.
So then let me ask, because when we start, you're getting into Duke bills and food pantries and clothing. So usually, I guess if one thinks of those things, those are things that you usually think resources for homeless people who are having financial issues, right? So then when we're saying, okay, because usually when you think about like gun violence, which we talked about earlier, you don't normally start thinking about, or sometimes you don't normally start thinking about all these resources that you just mentioned. So how does that kind of change differently that when you're talking of victims of sexual assault, that we're talking about these resources along those lines?
So one of the things that has changed was that a person who, and this is probably can go with sexual abuse too, but any person that has been going through any type of abuse, they are now offering workman's compensation. Have you heard that? So that's something that was brought up. So that's one way of helping something. Now, when you talk about,
I'm gonna stop you 1 second. You're saying that if they're going through sexual abuse, they're offered workman's compensation?
No, abuse. Like a woman being in a relationship with a man and she's trying to get out of that relationship. She gets out of the relationship. They're offering workman's comp. No, is that workman's comp?
Because I was going to say, that would be work
unemployment. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Unemployment. And so, with sexual abuse, if you need to be removed, they need to find somewhere else for you to go. And they have plenty of places to go. It's just a lot of it goes untalked about, unreported, unknown. It's pushed up under the table. So you've got like the Lighthouse that would take people in. You've got
The YWCA.
the YWCA.
So this is because they need to get out of their environment, out of the household. Because that's why I was asking. It was like, when you're talking the resources of food and clothes and Duke and all of that. So this is if your situation requires you to change.
Yes.
What we're finding out with people who are going through, who are survivors, they actually are having a hard time getting their lives together. So a lot of the things of this discombobulation that's in their life, you still have to eat, you still have to have shelter, you still have to have all these things. And every time they try to get some normality, because of what they're going through inside or what they've been through, it's hard for them to hold on to a steady flow
of income. So
Of
they're
in-
working
right.
because of the trauma.
Yeah, right. They're
And,
trying
see,
to
that- and
deal
that's
with
what I was
life.
trying. And that's what I was trying to
That's-
get to.
yes.
Of why
Why we're doing that.
because you could be a working person, a
Yes.
working woman or man,
Yes.
and have gone through this or dealing with it, and you may still be working. So the fact that the trauma for some people are making them unable to work or
Right.
to lead a normal
Exactly.
life.
Right,
Because you can
right.
be a mother to the child that it happened to, or you could be a sister to the and taking care because the mother's gone. I mean, when it comes to sexual abuse, you've got a whole realm of people. It's not the actual person. It's just not the actual person that's been sexually abused.
And-
It depends on the siblings, the parents, and whoever else that may be involved in what part that they're in the whole situation that you need to help. If this is a mother who's trying to leave because it's happening to her child, she's going to need some type of help. And so is the child. So
Both of them are survivors, and we're finding that if we attack the symptom, we attack what's really bothering the person, that we can help them find normality. And they're leading us really, because they're saying, this is what has happened to us, or this is what's happening to me. And if I leave this, what's going to happen to me over here? How can I do
And
this?
so it's kind of going along the same thought of a woman, and in some
And a
cases
man.
a man. In some
Yes.
cases a man, but more often a woman that may be in a domestic
Yes.
situation, the abuse situation, and if I leave, this is my source of income,
Right.
or it helps with the income, and
Right.
so I lose that. And I think what definitely we've been able to uncover, not that I guess it's been a secret, is that this whole situation of sexual abuse, just like the gun violence, it is tearing up homes, it is
Yes.
tearing up communities.
Yes.
And even with both, there are people who need help.
Yes.
But, and especially in our black community, when you start talking about therapists and all that, that is not the major norm in a black community. So we
Exactly.
deal with it ourselves. I can handle it. I'll make it work. And I think that we're seeing with CSSJ and other organizations as well that there's help. I guess what I'm saying is there is help for you. If you are in this situation, it doesn't matter if it happened 50 years ago or if it happened 50 seconds ago.
Very
If
good.
you are in this position, if you are in a situation that you need, you can call CSSJ. You can reach out, and then they can connect you to the trauma center. They can connect you with professionals that can take you on that next step. But the good thing is, it's not just a handoff and saying, good luck, deal with it, hope everything works out.
Right.
They are still there to help you, to be there for an ear, maybe even accompany you. I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe accompany you to a session because you may be afraid to go alone or don't
Yes.
have anyone that
Yes.
you can take with you. So I would love to continue this because it is just, it's needed. The conversation is needed, but I have
Jackie.
only a couple of seconds to
Mental.
close out.
We're trying to go towards a mental abuse situation as well, because we're dealing with mental abuse or mental challenges for people as
And
well.
so mental health, we know that there are mental health issues which are circling around, whether sexual abuse, gun violence, domestic abuse, that's there. Listen, I would love to keep talking to you. We need to keep talking to you. And I
Yes.
guarantee you that I will have these ladies back if I have to go find them and bring them back here. But it's important that you examine yourself. It's important that you look at where you are, look at what you're dealing with. And if you know that you need help, listen, forget what you heard. Go get help. Forget what somebody told you. You don't worry about it. And listen, and let me say this for you. We have God in our life for a wonderful and beautiful reason, but the Bible tells us to use wisdom. So wisdom is God gave individuals the mind to be able to learn, retain, and regurgitate what they learned to be a help to you. Don't be afraid to get spiritual counseling as well as clinical counseling so that you are
Yes.
whole. Salvation is completion.
Yes.
And you can't be complete if you're not dealing with the things that's kind of holding you back. So thank you again for joining us. I have a lot of emotions I want to get out, but we're not going there. So listen, stay faithful, stay healthy.